Hey, how's it going, guys? My name is Matt. We're here at Hamilton Liquor in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We're going to be looking at some interesting new products that have come into our market recently. It's actually going to be Indiana distilled whiskey, and I know what you're thinking when you hear those words, Indiana whiskey. You're thinking that it's going to be MGP just like everything else is. This is actually not. This is going to be a craft distillery out of West Baden Springs, Indiana called French Lick. The 4 bottles you see in front of me right here are going to be distributor single barrel picks that have recently come into our market. 2 of them are going to be pretty traditional bourbons. The blue label right here is going to be a traditional wheated mash bill. The black is going to be a rye. And we have a couple of more interesting proprietary mash bills that aren't actually traditional bourbons at all. They are American whiskeys. The tan label here, the Charles Ballard, is going to be a twin malt. It is only chocolate malted barley and corn. And then my favorite over here, the Whiskey Witch, is actually going to be a really interesting mash bill. So in order of the percentage appearance in the mash, it's going to be wheat, peat smoked malted barley, and oats. So yeah, let's crack these open and do some samples. Cool, so we're going to work through these as a progression. I figured that we would start with the most traditional bourbon here. So this is going to be the Matty Gladen. This is going to be their corn, rye, and malted barley bourbon mash bill. This particular single barrel right here is going to be 4 years old. It is bottled at 100 proof, 100.2 proof. Let's see what she tastes like. Give it a little swirl there, then we're going to nose it. And right off the bat, I'm getting a little bit more maturity than you would expect out of something that's going to be 4 years old. There's a nice thick oak presence to it, but not without some sweetness, kind of like a red apple sweetness with like a little bit of cinnamon. Like I said, this is going to be the most traditional of the offerings. Let's go ahead and give it a taste. That is very nice. It's very full for 100 proof, balanced. I don't actually have the numbers on the percentage grains in the mash bill, but I'm getting like a little bit of like a raisiny kind of datey finish in the back that makes me think that there's a higher than normal percentage of malted barley. It's usually that kind of note that I get when a bourbon or American whiskey that's been aged in a new oak barrel has that higher percentage of malted barley. That being said, traditional, I mean, you get your caramel, a little bit of sweetness, the vanillins, nice heavy oak, nice and full at 100 proof. It's a very nice sipper. All right, moving on to our second offering here from French Lick. This is going to be the William Dalton traditional wheated bourbon, so corn, wheat, and then malted barley in the mash bill. It's going to be 5 1/2 years old. This particular single barrel was bottled at 103.8 proof, so about 104, a little bit higher than the Matty Gladen. Go ahead and give a pour, and we're going to nose it. And on the nose, you get the difference pretty immediately. It's got a little bit more of that kind of like red cherry kind of thing that's pretty prominent in most traditional wheaters. Once again, a little bit more oak than the maturity would suggest. Not in a bad way at all. It's just, it's full, not tannic. It's just, you know, those kind of sweeter oak notes are sitting heavy. It's nice and big, and that's good. Yeah, a little bit drier, a little bit leathery, I would say. The cherry kind of is a little bit more front to mid palate, and then what's really sitting, it's kind of like a little bit of a darker, kind of leathery tobacco kind of note. A little bit fuller of a sip than the Matty Gladen, I would say. Very nice. Once again, the proof is balanced at that 103, 104 proof point. Once again, a very nice sipper. All right, 3 out of 4. We're moving on to the 2 cask strength offerings in the lineup that we presented earlier. This is going to be the Charles Ballard. This is going to be a twin grain right here. It is chocolate malted barley and corn. That's it. That's all that's in the mash bill. So at 125.5 proof, we're moving into the true cask strength now. You want to go ahead and give us a pour, and we're going to see what she smells like. Very nice on the nose. The one thing that you can be wary of when you're drinking something that's this high proof is that you can get ethanol kind of immediately leaping out of the glass, and it can be a little strong, sometimes even overpowering. But this is nice. It's full, but it's not strong. I am getting a little bit of that chocolate malt. It's almost kind of like It's sweet on the nose. It's like a milk chocolate. It's desserty, but the caramel sweetness is definitely still there. Little bit of fruit, like maybe like a little bit of green apple. But yeah, let's go ahead and give this a taste and see what's up. Okay, so upon tasting, that little bit of that milk chocolate note that I was getting on the nose, it transforms, gets a little bit drier, almost more like a not super dark like a raw cacao, but like kind of like a dark chocolate that still has a little bit of a hint of sweetness to it. And it's very oily, so it's kind of sucking the moisture out of my mouth. But that's something that you would expect at 125 proof. It's like a chocolate powder kind of predominates, like a Nesquik powder or something like that. But it's cool. I mean, you see the words chocolate malted barley. It's interesting because, you know, the chocolate note is definitely there. An interesting sipper, you know, it's a-traditional. It's very cool, very tasty. All right, guys, this is going to be the last bottle that we're going to be showcasing from the French Lick Distillery. This is the one that's been doing the best for us, and it's the one that I'm the most excited about because it's really novel. It is not a bourbon at all. It is an American whiskey. The mash bill for the Whiskey Witch here is going to be in order of the percentage grains in the mash bill: wheat, peated malted barley, and oats. So that is a crazy mash bill. It's way a-traditional. It's nice to see a craft distillery doing really cool experimental stuff. Barreled in 2016 and bottled late last year. This is a single barrel like the rest in the series. So it's going to be about 7 years old. Comes in at 129.3 proof, so it's big, it's powerful, it's heavy. Novel mash bill. The peat on the malted barley is going to play into it. Wheat is there. Oats are there. Not a lot of people use oat. It's a very craft thing to do. So we're going to go ahead and give this a taste and see what she smells like. And that is unique. Like, you'll notice how quickly I pulled the glass away from my nose is because it's so immediately different from what you would expect from, you know, a bourbon or, you know, a more traditional American whiskey. It's going to sound crazy, but like, it's like almost like bubble gum and Hershey's milk chocolate, like the bubble gum kind of popping up first and then the chocolate creeping up a little bit later, which seems like a really weird combination, but it kind of works. It's interesting because it's not peaty, even though peated malted barley is, you know, part of the equation here. There's not like that kind of like rubber, you know, that kind of smoke that you would get from like an Isle of Scotch or something like that. It's almost like that percentage of peated grains are kind of playing into the other parts of the mash bill. But let's give it a taste. It really does carry over pretty one for one from the nose to the palate. It's a lot like the previous one we tasted, the Ballard. It's very oily, and of course it's high proof, so you're going to expect that. Same thing, like those kind of weird intermingling of like Hubba Bubba Bubba Gum and like Hershey's chocolate. It's like that kind of almost fruity kind of bubblegum flavor comes up on the fore palate, and then the kind of duskier chocolate creeps in from the back. It sounds so weird. But it just works, and I think it's interesting because it's so a-traditional. Like I said, this one has been doing the best for us out of the four that I've already presented. It's the one that I think I honestly like the best. It's interesting, it's an American whiskey, it's not a bourbon. It's very, very cool. I think it's worth a sip. All right, guys, so as I said, those are going to be some single barrel offerings that have just hit the Chattanooga market from the French Lick Distillery in Indiana. This is Indiana whiskey. It is not MGP. This is an emerging craft property that's doing very well for themselves, and I really like their product. Thank you.